we closed the third chapter of Rosh HaShanah on questions of kavanah, questions of intention. And we are actually going to close the fourth chapter eventually on similar questions, on questions of intention. But before we go there, we're going to go back to an issue which we've already dealt with at the beginning of the discussion about sanctifying the new moon, and that is the question of the authority of the Bet Din. Who is it that carries real authority? And the Mishnah begins. So we're at the beginning of the fourth chapter now. Yom Tov she Rosh HaShanah shechal liot b'Shabbat. A Yom Tov of Rosh HaShanah that fell on Shabbat. So just like this year, in fact, first day Rosh HaShanah is Shabbat. B'mikdash hayu tokim aval lo v'bnina. They would blow in the temple or in the Mikdash. They would blow in the Mikdash. We'll see the Rambam will discuss that word in a minute. They would blow in the Mikdash, but not in the provinces. So they would blow shofar on Shabbat, on Rosh Hashanah, but only in the temple. Mishachara Beit HaMikdash, Hidkin Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, Shehu Tokim B'chol Makom Sheyesh Bo Bet Din. After the destruction of the temple, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai decreed that it should be blown. And the Mishnah doesn't say on Shabbat, but that's clearly the intention. Sheyehu Tokim. It should be blown in every place where there was a Bet Din. In other words, according to Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, every place that has a Bet Din is in some way equivalent to the temple. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Lo hitkin Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai ele biyavne bilvad. Rabbi Elazar said, Rabban, no, we're not talking about everywhere where there's a Bet Din. We're just talking about Yavne. Amrulo, echad Yavne ve'echad kol makom sheyesh bo Bet Din. They said to him, both Yavne and any place where there is a Bet Din. And this plays out, by the way. I mean, halacha follows the Mishnah. It doesn't follow Rabbi Elazar. And today, of course, we don't blow in a place where there's any old Bet Din. But interestingly, the Rif, the Rav of Al-Fas, Rabbi Yitzchak of Al-Fas, used to apparently blow. That's in Fez in North Africa. Used to blow apparently in his Bet Din. So maybe if you have a Bet Din that is sufficiently distinguished, maybe there you actually blow the shofar on Shabbat, on Rosh HaShanah. And the Rambam explains. He actually tells us, he's explained several times. Well, he's writing the commentary on the whole of the Mishnah, so he's completely consistent. He explains that the expression Mikdash, and he means Medina, means Jerusalem. So Mikdash means Jerusalem, and Medina means any other city in the land of Israel. So let's just hold on to that, because we'll see the next Mishnah will interpret itself rather nicely according to the interpretation of the Rambam. And then he explains that the reason that the sounding of the shofar is forbidden on Shabbat is it's a takana in case someone actually carries it in the public domain 4 cubits, because he makes it clear the essence of blowing the shofar is not malacha. There's no work involved in blowing the shofar. It's an art. It's not a malacha. But the rabbis are anxious that we're going to carry it in the public domain, maybe to ask an expert about it. I think that's the reason given in the Gemara, or maybe to carry it from place to place to blow it in public. So the sages forbid it. And of course, the reason why, along that reasoning, the reason why it's permitted where there is a Bet Din is that where there is a Bet Din, I think you can assume that the Bet Din will make sure that it is not carried in the public domain. In other words, you can trust the Bet Din to blow the shofar without breaking Shabbat. And the Mishnah then goes on, Furthermore, Jerusalem was greater than Yavne. Shekol ir shehi ro'eh v'shomah u'krova v'yochola lavot tokin. That in every city which could see and hear and was near and could get there, that is, get to Jerusalem, tokin, they used to blow. In Yavne, they only used to blow in the Bet Din, not in the whole city. So, and again, you can see here, this lines up rather nicely with the Rambam's explanation that Mikdash actually refers to the whole city of Jerusalem, because this Mishnah refers to Jerusalem against Yavne rather than to the Mikdash against Yavne. And there's an episode in the Gemara which really reinforces how important this narrative is for the power of the Bet Din. The Gemara brings this story when discussing the first blowing on Shabbat. Tanu Rabbanan, our teachers taught, Pamachat Chal Rosh HaShanah Liot b'Shabbat. One day, Rosh HaShanah occurred on Shabbat. V'hayu Chol He'arim Mitkansin, and all the cities gathered. It sounds like everybody came in to Yavne. Sounds like they're all gathering in Yavne. Amar lahem Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, livnei Betera. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to the Bnei Betera, we don't know who the Bnei Betera are. There's some kind of halachic group who normally, by the way, disagree. They normally disagree with the family of Rabban Gamliel and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Anyway, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai said to the Bnei Betera, Nitka, let us blow the shofar. So he makes the proposal that they should blow the shofar on Shabbat in Yavne. Amrulo, they said to him, Nadun. They said to him, look, let's have a discussion about it. Amar lahem, Nitka, ve'achar kach nadun. He said to them, let us blow, and afterwards let us discuss. And of course, maybe there's an issue of time here as well, because the shofar has to be blown during Rosh HaShanah, I guess before it gets dark. So you can't just hang around talking. Well, you can talk all day, but not really all day. You have to. There comes a point you have to blow. So he said, "Nitka ve'achar kach nadun." Let us blow, and afterwards let us discuss. La'achar shetaku amru lo nadun. After they blew, they said to him, "Let's discuss." Amar lahem, he said to them, "Kfar nishma'a Keren beyavne." The horn has already been heard in Yavne. This is a famous saying. Ve'ein meshivin achar ma'aseh, and one doesn't retract after the fact. The deed is done. The horn's been blown in Yavne. We don't retract after the fact. And for that matter, he's saying, look, we now understand which Bet Din has authority, because our Bet Din has decreed that the shofar is sounded on Shabbat, on Rosh HaShanah, and that's what we've done. And then the Mishnah, maybe even to reinforce the power of the Bet Din, the Mishnah then goes on to discuss other things that Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai did to reinforce, if you like, in the name of the Bet Din. In earlier times, the lulav was taken for 7 days in the temple, and in the provinces, uvamdina yom echad. Or in Jerusalem, following the Rambam, this will be in Jerusalem for 7 days, in the provinces for 1 day only. And we have a pasuk there, by the way. We have a pasuk that we can rely on. It's from Emor, from Vayikra, from the book of Leviticus. And it says that you shall take on the first day these 4 species, the produce of the goodly tree and the palm branches and the boughs of leafy trees and the willows of the brook. You take them on the first day. So there seems to be a special mitzvah on the first day. And yet, Usmachtem lifnei Hashem Elohechem shivat yamim. You shall rejoice before the Lord your God 7 days. So we rejoice 7 days, but only lifnei Hashem Elohechem, only before God. And it's on the if you like, the difference between the 1 day and the 7 days in this verse, that originally the sages ruled we would shake the lulav in the temple, which was lifnei Hashem Elohechem, which was before God. So when we're before God, we shake it 7 days, but otherwise only 1 day. So that's the original halacha. Barishona hayal halulav nital b'mikdash shiva uva merida yom echad. In earlier times, in the beginning, it was just taken in the provinces for 1 day, but for 7 days in the temple. Mi shecharav beit hamikdash. It's exactly the same language as the previous Mishnah. In fact, this Mishnah, by the way, is taught. We've learned this Mishnah in the Masechet of Sukkah. So this Mishnah is brought into our Masechet because it's taught in the same language and it deals with the same issue of the authority of the Beit Din. Mishecharab Beit HaMikdash, after the destruction of the temple, Hidkin Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai sheyehei halulav nital b'medina shiva zeich el HaMikdash. We would take the lulav in the provinces for 7 days in memory of the temple. And he makes a further takana, veshiveh sheyehei yom hanef kulo asur, that the produce, the new year's crop, would be forbidden for the whole of the day of the waving. So when the temple stood, as long as the Omer sacrifice had been brought the day after Pesach, the New Year's produce could be eaten. Once the temple no longer existed and the Omer was no longer brought onto the altar, the New Year's produce was forbidden for the whole day.